In the heart of Oniru, a lively town where the smell of roasted yams mixed with the shouts of traders, stood the grand building of New Hope Assembly. It was the pride of the people, a place where hearts were lifted and lives changed. Or so it seemed. Leading this house of worship was Pastor Daramola Efe, a man loved for his faith and his charming way with words. To many, he was a guiding star, a shepherd with answers for their heavy burdens. By his side was his stunning wife, Eniola. She was the crown jewel of the church. With her graceful walk and kind smile, she moved through the people like a blessing from above. Pastor Daramola often stayed late at the church, diving deep into prayers and preparing messages to inspire his flock. His holy calling kept him too, busy to notice the small shifts happening at home. Eniola, aware of this, carefully shaped her evenings around his schedule. She waited for him to be deep in prayer or snoring softly before she slipped away. Her timing was perfect. Nobody suspected a thing. By day, Eniola was the perfect pastor's wife, calm, caring, and committed. She led the women's meetings, with grace arranged charity work and counseled couples. Everyone saw her as a role model, but when the sun sank behind the hills of Oniru and the city lights started to blink, Eniola became someone else. On the rare nights Daramola noticed her absence, Eniola would sigh and say, "It's Sister Temi. She's struggling. I went to pray with her." Daramola trusted her completely. He would nod and pray for Sister Temi. Eniola's role as a listener and helper gave her the perfect excuse to leave the house unnoticed. At night, in a private hotel suite bathed in gold light, she took off her long, modest gowns and put on sleek, body-hugging dresses. She became Sade, a name whispered in the halls of power. Men, rich and powerful, were drawn to her like bees to honey. This secret life felt thrilling, like wind rushing through her bones. And it paid well. Very well. She told herself it wasn't greed, it was survival. Daramola's church salary barely kept them afloat. The bills kept rising. What began as one night to pay off a loan became 2, then 3, then many. It became her secret dance with the night. Far away from this secret, a 23-year-old young woman named Awala had just finished her studies. She dreamed of telling true stories as a journalist. Her heart beat for truth, and something about Eniola seemed too perfect. Awel's family had always attended New Hope Assembly. They adored Eniola. But Awele saw something different, a flicker of sadness in Eniola's eyes, a tension in her smile. One bright afternoon, during a church gathering, Awele's curiosity flared. Eniola arrived late. Her hair wasn't perfect. A bruise peeked from under her blouse. Awel's eyes narrowed. Her mother leaned in, whispering, "Isn't she just a saint?" "Maybe too saintly," Awala mumbled. While others praised Eniola, Awala began to watch more closely. Eniola's secret life had introduced her to men who carried power like swords. Governors, tycoons, even foreign visitors. Most nights passed like shadows, but one night felt different. Sade sat in a dim lounge with her newest client. The air smelled of money and danger. Across from her sat Chief Olumide, a feared name in Oniru. He was known for his deep pockets and deeper cruelty. He smiled like a lion ready to pounce. "You're even more beautiful in person," he said. "Thank you," Eniola replied, forcing a calm voice while fear climbed her throat. He leaned in. "Do you know Pastor Daramola Efe?" Her heart stopped. She had never revealed who she really was. Yet this man knew something. "He's a good man," she said softly. "Indeed," Chief Olumide said with a sly tone. "I wonder what he'd say if he knew where his wife spent her nights." Eniola almost choked on her breath. Was he testing her? She laughed weakly. "You must be mistaken." But his smirk said otherwise. That night, she tiptoed home with her thoughts, screaming. Daramola was asleep, his Bible on the table. She crawled beside him, her heart racing. Did Olumide know the truth? And if he did, what next? The next day at church, she wore her usual smile, but her hands trembled. She couldn't meet anyone's eyes. She felt as if the walls themselves were whispering. And Awele? She noticed everything. The reporter in her was alive. Her eyes followed Eniola's every move. One evening, Awele saw her chance. As she walked home, she saw Eniola glide into a black car wearing a dazzling gown. Awele jumped on a passing bike and followed. The car snaked through the busy streets until it stopped at a grand hotel. Eniola stepped out, no longer the preacher's wife, but a queen of mystery. Awele's hands shook as she took a photo. Her mind screamed, this was big, but it was also dangerous. In the days that followed, Awele barely slept. The image burned in her mind, Eniola stepping into another world. She now had proof, but she needed more. Meanwhile, Eniola was losing her grip. Chief Olamide's words echoed in her ears. Awele's watching eyes felt like fire on her skin. She was exhausted, spiritually, emotionally. Even Daramola began to notice. "Are you all right, my love?" he asked one night. "Just tired," she said too, quickly. "The women's group is demanding." He nodded, but something in his heart stirred. Awele couldn't stop. She kept a quiet record. When Eniola arrived, when she left, who she greeted. She searched online. Then one day, boom, on a Club's U Instagram page, she found a blurry image. But the figure was clear. It was her. She had two pieces of the puzzle, but it still wasn't enough. Eniola's nightlife was now risky. The men grew bolder. One night, after a harsh meeting, she spotted Awele across the street, hiding, phone raised. Panic gripped Eniola. She ducked into the hotel, heart pounding. Awele stayed till midnight, then gave up. Eniola knew the clock was ticking. Her world felt like a clay pot with cracks forming fast. One more blow, and it would shatter. Meanwhile, Awele's digging led to a shocking truth. One of Eniola's steady clients was none other than Chief Ajero, a round-bellied businessman who also sat on the board of New Hope Assembly. Ajero was famous for his big donations and loud sermons about purity. But here he was, caught in the very sins he screamed against. Awele's eyes widened. "This is no small story," she whispered. But she also knew, if men like Ajero were involved, this tale could be deadly. Pastor Daramola noticed Eniola's shift. She looked far away even when sitting next to him. During morning prayers, her mind wandered. She flinched every time her phone buzzed. One evening, as she bathed, Daramola picked up her phone. It was locked. That stung. She never used a password before. A shadow crept into Daramola's heart. He told himself she was stressed, but suspicion had already planted a seed. Awele couldn't stay silent. One Sunday, as people left the church, she walked up to Eniola. "Madam Eniola," she said, her voice calm but her heart thudding. Eniola turned, wearing her peaceful mask. "Yes, my dear." "I've noticed things," Awele said slowly. "Things that don't quite add up. I believe you know what I mean." For a heartbeat, Eniola's face slipped. Her hand clutched her purse. But then, she smiled again. "I'm afraid I don't," she said coolly. "If you've something to say, say it." Awele opened her mouth but stopped. Something in Eniola's eyes warned her. "Never mind," Awele said, stepping away. Eniola stood still, her stomach tight with guilt. The girl was chasing fire, and Eniola feared what might happen if she got too close. The talk left Awele with more questions, but also with new courage. She was sure now, Eniola was hiding something huge. Eniola returned to her Sunday duties with grace and poise. But now, Awele saw the cracks, the stiff smiles, the faraway looks, the trembling fingers. Awele's spirit burned. This was the story that could change her life. But danger was creeping in. Pastor Daramola, the pillar of New Hope Assembly, continued to preach with passion. But he noticed something. Some people avoided his gaze. Elders whispered behind his back. One quiet evening, he sat with Elder Tayo, his closest ally. Something's wrong, Daramola said, stirring his tea. Tayo hesitated. People talk, Pastor. Sometimes it's just noise. But other times, it's more. What are they saying? Tayo sighed. I shouldn't say. But Pastor, your family is under a brighter light. People expect more. Daramola said nothing, but the words clung to him like thorns. Awele's search took her deeper. Late at night, she found a post on a gossip site. It spoke of a mysterious woman named Sade, a rising figure in Oniru's high-end nightlife. The posts spoke of her grace, her power, her beauty. Every detail pointed to one person, Eniola A. Wells. Heart raced. Could it be? She returned to the hotel where she first saw Eniola. A friend at the front desk owed her a favor. After hours of watching grainy footage, Awele gasped. There, on a quiet Tuesday night, Eniola stepped out of an elevator, in a red dress that hugged her like silk. Her eyes darted around. Awele snapped a photo. It was all the proof she needed, but danger didn't wait. One night, as Eniola left the hotel, a stranger appeared. Mrs. Eve, he said coldly. She froze. Her secret name was supposed to protect her. Who are you? She asked, steady but scared. Let's say I work for someone who knows you well, he said. You've been entertaining, but secrets, they can turn deadly. He walked away. Eniola trembled. The following Sunday, Pastor Daramola stood before his people, preaching about trust and faith. But his own heart felt hollow. For the first time, he felt a gap between him and the God he served. Later, he found Eniola in the kitchen. Eni, we need to talk. She froze, then smiled. Of course. You seem distant, he said gently. Is there something you're hiding? She stirred the pot. Just church stress. He touched her shoulder. You can tell me anything. She nodded, but her eyes stayed down. Awele now had the truth, but also a fear she couldn't shake. She knew this story could tear down everything. The church, the marriage, the people. Was it still her duty to reveal it? Just then, an email appeared. Subject, be careful where you dig. One line. Some secrets are worth killing for. Awele's hands shook. She now understood the storm she had walked into. At New Hope Assembly, rumors flew like birds in Harmattan. People whispered about Eniola. She's changed, they said. She looks nervous, distracted, and I heard she's out late. No one had proof, but the talk was poison. Elders began to ask, was Eniola damaging the church's name? Daramola ignored the whispers. He believed in his wife, but even he began to feel unsure, especially when a deacon said, Pastor, even the strongest homes need watchful eyes. The storm had only just begun. The warning email had shaken Awele to her core. But instead of fear, it gave her fire. Each night she sat at her small table piecing together Eniola's double life. Photos, dates, names. Everything pointed to a dark web of power and secrets. But Awele wasn't the only one watching. One evening, as she walked home from the cafe where she wrote her stories, a black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down slowly. Miss Awele, came a deep voice. She turned. A man in a sharp gray suit leaned against the door. For your own good, he said calmly. Drop what you're digging into. Her heart pounded. Who sent you? The man smirked. Someone who values silence. He slid back into the car and drove away. Awele stood there frozen. Meanwhile, Eniola was breaking. She sat alone in the living room one night staring at the flickering fire. Daramola was out at a church meeting. Her phone buzzed. It was Chief Illumidi. We need to talk. You know what happens if you ignore me. Her hand trembled. Her world was closing in. She knew she couldn't hide forever. But the idea of looking Daramola in the eyes and telling the truth was too heavy. Daramola reached his breaking point when Elder Tayo came to him one evening with something he couldn't unsee. A blurry photo of Eniola entering a hotel alone, at night. I didn't want to believe it, Tayo said softly. But the church is talking. You must act before everything falls apart. Daramola stared at the picture, breath caught in his chest. He wanted to scream, no, to say it was fake, but deep inside he knew. That night he waited until Eniola came out of the bathroom. "Where were you last Tuesday night?" he asked, holding up the photo. She froze. The truth was now a wall in front of her. "I can explain." "Explain what?" He interrupted, his voice shaking. "Why my wife is sneaking into hotels. Why the congregation is whispering." Tears spilled down Eniola's face. "It's not what you think. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Then what is it, Annie? Tell me." But no words came, only silence. The next Sunday, the church was tense. Daramola and Eniola sat together at the front, but they looked like strangers. His sermon felt hollow. His voice, once thunder, was now dust. Whispers spread like Harmattan fire. Aweli stood at a painful crossroads. She had the truth, but the man in the black car haunted her. Could she risk it all? Could she hurt Daramola, the church, and a woman already drowning? After nights of tears and prayers, she made a choice. She wrote the story, but removed all names. The article was titled, "The Golden Mask, A Tale of Secrets and Lies." It went viral. People in Oniru connected the dots quickly. Whispers turned into roars. Accusations flew. The church began to crumble. Some turned on Eniola, others on Awele. But no one walked away untouched. Daramola felt the weight of it all like a mountain on his chest. The betrayal, the shame, the pain. Eniola stayed home, hiding from judging eyes. One night she sat at the kitchen table and picked up a pen. "Daramola, I don't know if you can ever forgive me. I don't know if I deserve it. But everything I did, right or wrong, was for us. I see now that I chose the wrong path. I'm sorry. If you can forgive me, I'll spend my life making it right." She placed the letter on his desk and walked out, unsure if she would return. Awel walked through the town with her head low. She heard the whispers. The pastor's wife, the journalist, the scandal. She hadn't meant for this. She only wanted the truth. One day, she found herself on the steps of New Hope Assembly. The doors were open, but the hall was empty. Daramola sat alone in the front pew, head bowed. "Pastor," she said softly. He looked up, eyes tired. "Miss Aweli, I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "I thought the truth would heal. I see now how much it hurt." Daramola sighed. "The truth is never soft, Awele, but it is needed. I want to fix it." He looked at her, then nodded. "Then pray, with me." At the elders' meeting, the room was split. Some wanted Eniola removed. Others pleaded for mercy. "We can't allow sin in leadership," one elder barked. "And yet we all sin," another replied. "Who are we to cast the first stone?" Daramola stood and said, "This church stands on forgiveness. If we abandon that, what's left?" Silence followed. Eniola wandered for days until she found herself at the home of her childhood friend Ireti. Ireti embraced her, fed her, and listened. "Alec, you've fallen. But running won't save you. If you want redemption, go back and face it." Eniola nodded, tears flowing. She knew it was time. The next Sunday she walked into the church. Eyes turned. Whispers followed. But she held. Her head high. Daramola stood at the pulpit. "My family has faced trials," he began. "It would be easy to pretend all is well, but that would be a lie. My wife has failed, so have I. But we choose to rebuild." Some nodded, some frowned, but no one left. In the weeks that followed, Eniola stepped down from church leadership. She worked quietly behind the scenes, trying to earn back trust. Daramola stood by her, not as a perfect man, but as a man willing to forgive. Awel wrote again. This time not about scandal, but about strength. She told of a woman who faced her shame, of a pastor who chose grace. Months passed. New Hope Assembly. was smaller but stronger. Those who remained were bonded and healing. Normal and Daniel's love was no longer spotless, but it was honest, and in that honesty they found hope again. The storm had passed. And though it left scars, it also left light. Sometimes the truth breaks us before it sets us free. But in facing our deepest shame, we find the path to healing and the courage to begin again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African tales.